Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's garden video. I'm going to start off with a quick look in the greenhouse here. A couple weeks ago I had planted some new seeds because I need to do some succession planning for things that are getting ready to be pulled out in my garden. And I noticed that a lot of things had germinated, which is awesome, but I also multi-sow seeds per little tray here, so I have multiple little plants per tray, and I only end up wanting one plant per little pod here. So what I end up doing is I pull them out and I separate them out, and I do this when they're very young. You can see they're very little. I'm very gentle when I do this, and I make sure that I get the root system that's starting to develop, and I put them in their own separate trays, and then I let them, or their own separate cells, and then I let them grow up for a bit before I plant them out. Here I started to do a project where I wanted to go thin the raspberries. I thought, they're kind of growing in pretty wild where I'd cut them to the ground on this side of the raspberry patch. And I thought, well, I'll thin them out to help it for better later in the season or whatever. And then I decided, nope, I don't want to do that. So what I ended up doing is just the ones that were really sticking off the edge and kind of growing outward, I cut off, and all the other ones, I actually have a wire surround that goes around there to help contain them. I just kind of tucked them up into that wire to keep them upright, and then I called it a day. I do continue to collect strawberries every day, which is awesome, and you can see here where I'm at sort of at this part of the week. And I also noticed when I was clipping back my raspberries that some of them have started to turn color, which gets me very excited. Anyone who knows me knows I don't actually like eating berries per se, but I do love the flavor of berries, so I love growing them to make jams and stuff out of. And then this is a look at the seeds that are going on in my beets. I think they're doing something. I hope they're doing something. It looks like these little tiny flowers have produced flowers, and I'm hoping that they will produce seeds soon. The next day, you guys have seen me do this. I go out and I harvest lettuce. My lettuce is getting to the point where it's about to bolt, which means it's about to create a long stalk in the middle and produce flowers. And when that happens, one, you can collect seed from that if you want to, but otherwise the lettuce itself turns pretty bitter. I don't know what the mechanism is within the plant that makes it turn bitter, but once it starts to bolt and go to flower, you don't want to harvest it. So what I'm trying to do here, and you see my arms just loading up, I'm trying to gather as much lettuce as I can off these plants before they bolt and before they become bitter, and then I have new ones ready to go into the ground soon. I also spent time harvesting my spinach. So I just kind of forgot about spinach, to be honest. I don't eat a lot of it, like as raw spinach, but I do like to grow it. I've got some beautiful seeds, and so I grow a bunch of plants, and here you see me just pretty much cutting down my whole harvest of this year. They had started also they started to bolt, but I think with spinach specifically, you don't notice that bitterness when it bolts, but I also don't want them to go to seed. So here you see me just pretty much cutting everything down, and you also see me throwing little extras over to the animals who are always keeping me company when I'm out in the garden. And when I brought it all in, I chopped it all up, a rough chop, and I squished it as hard as I could into these bags, and I ended up getting 4 gallons of spinach, which I'll stick into the freezer. I also love, I plant a couple different varieties of peas, and this one, I don't know what it's called, but it produces a beautiful purple flower and a beautiful purple pea pod. You guys have seen me harvest strawberries forever, but here I am harvesting more strawberries. It's pretty much peas and strawberries and broccoli are the things that I harvest every day. One of the things that's been happening with this strawberry patch, which I guess I'm kind of excited about, but also didn't necessarily expect with these brand new strawberry plants, is they are sending out a ton of runners. I don't know if anyone else grows strawberries, but they send out these little shoots that then have little baby plants on them. It's kind of like a spider plant if you had a spider plant in your house, where it sends off one of those things and it produces a new plant. And I just spend some time going around and cutting all these little runners off. I don't need the plant to spend energy sending out new plants. The next day I looked in the greenhouse just to make sure that all of my new seedlings that I had repotted were doing fine, and they are all doing fine. And I also noticed that some of the stuff I started more recently is starting to germinate. Those are beets and some lettuce, so I'm excited that they're coming up as well. And a friend of mine stopped by and gave me a couple tomatoes, and so I'm going to find a place to put them in the garden. And really what I decided was I was going to put them where my garlic is, so I have a couple tomatillos that I just planted just out of frame in this same spot, and I thought I'll plant a tomato in here as well. And because I don't have that fencing that I grow it up to give it some structure as it grows, I actually have a tomato cage that I put around here. And people also say that you can bury tomatoes really deep because it'll help them produce a lot of roots, which will give you a small plant, but I just kind of planted it to the depth that it was given to me in the pot, and we'll see how it does. And this one is called a mortgage lifter, I think is what it's called. A quick look here, this is actually the old strawberry patch. It's up against the house. We just put the strawberries in to kind of be a ground cover in here, and they have been so prolific, and I've been harvesting them, and that's been great, but we moved them out into the garden, or some of the babies out into the garden, just to start a new patch. So it was actually easier for me to harvest because I can easily get around this patch, and it's clearly doing well. I think I'm up to about over 2 gallons worth of strawberries at this point in time. The peas have been a little bit harder to capture because I've been eating so many as I've been picking them, but here's just a typical harvest on any given day. Also, my raspberries, as they continue to ripen up, I will go out there daily and pluck them off. They aren't big. This variety of raspberry was just here in the ground, and so I moved it out to the garden to kind of create a specific patch. The raspberries taste fine. They just aren't very big, and they're not really juicy, and especially any raspberries that I let grow on old vines, they're very small. The ones that I let grow on new vines are bigger, but every day I'm out there harvesting some raspberries. Here's a quick look out at the septic mound. I went out there, these are my squash. If you guys remember, gosh, a month ago, I don't know how long ago, I planted a whole bunch of squash out on the septic mound. I just put a little bit of landscape fabric down to give them a little bit of space, and then I just cut holes in the landscape fabric and put them in there, and because it's always wet and sunny, I just leave them, and I'll come back at the end of the season and harvest whatever's out there. Looking at the greenhouse again, you can see how quickly things germinate and pop up through the soil. I just showed this, a little bit earlier yesterday, and they're already popping up the soil. But the greenhouse itself, this time of year, especially with heat, is too hot. Even with the doors open, it's just, I don't know, it gets to be like 100 in there. And so what I do every day is I walk out and I set these on the ground outside where they still get sun. And I had just watered them. That's why I'm dumping out the water there. They still get sun, they still get a lot of, it's plenty warm for them to be outside, these new seedlings, but I don't like them in the greenhouse, it's too warm. I also have had these 2 zucchinis that I just never put in the ground because I don't have space for them. And I thought either I need to put them in the ground or I need to get rid of them. And they're turning yellow, they're not doing well. So I thought I'm just going to stick it in the ground and I will grow 4 zucchinis this year, which is going, I'm going to be on beyond zucchini overload, so the animals are going to love me. But it's got a decent root system in there, not really root bound, but that whole spot, it was hard to see, was filled up with roots, which is nice. I'll stick it in the ground. What happens is these leaves start to turn yellow when you use sterile compost, and so I just like getting them in the ground where they have the natural bacteria to work with the roots. And this is a look at one of my tomatoes. It's already starting to produce fruit. Some people say to pull off early tomatoes so it gives the plant more vigor later on. I let whatever fruit forms form. And taking a look at those zucchini, by the way, I have noticed that I do have a couple. Zucchini is already starting to form. You can see at the end of the flower there's a baby one. It's kind of hard to see because of the lighting. And then when you look at the other plant, this one's a little easier to see also at the end of that flower. And so I will have zucchinis galore. This day I went out and I cut back a bunch of my broccoli. I still harvested. It produces little broccoli heads. It's great. But also what'll happen is it'll send up these really, really thin flower stalks, which are the same as the broccoli heads, but they're very, you don't want to eat those. So I do want to keep the plant not putting energy into those, so I go ahead and cut those all back. And then I go feed them to the animals. More strawberry harvesting, as again, I'm still fighting that possum. It's still going in there every day, but I'm still trying to get some from it. And again, more pea harvesting. I thought I would just film it from a different angle just to mix it up a bit, but I am out there all the time. And those peas are so big and so heavy, they're actually, it's already tipped over once, and I've had to resupport it, and it might tip over again. I hope not. I hope we don't get any wind, and there I am showing off my harvest. And we're today. So here's a walk down each aisle. Those are my strawberry patch. You can see a kale there that's a little smaller and a little different color that I've got planted. And my cabbages are starting to form nice heads, which is great. I've got some chard right there. And then I don't know if you can tell, but the lettuces are getting taller and a little more pointy, which means they're starting to bolt. So I'm almost done with this. This is some baby cauliflower I just planted from the new seedlings. And here's a row of the cauliflower that's been in the ground. And it's so interesting to me how some, like on this end, are doing so well. And you kind of look in there to see if there's a head forming yet, but not yet. And the rest aren't. This is kind of a look at the broccoli as it stands, kind of walking by it. Here's my tomatoes. They're flowering. They're producing fruit, which is great. I'm at this point in time just letting everything grow, just giving it time. I'll kind of spend more time adjusting them later in the season. Here's a look at those peas, and I don't know if you can tell, they're all kind of leaning to the left. And then past the peas, I have some gladiolas because I have some flowers, and there are some poppies as well on the flower bed. Here's a look at my potatoes. These are my rosettes. They're not as big as my golds. This is the row of my golds right here, and they're doing much better. And then at the end of this row, you can see my carrots, which are coming in fine as well. I'll look at my cucumbers and then my zucchini behind them in the further row. My cucumbers, again, at this point in time, they're just kind of growing, just kind of settling in and letting them grow. My beans are a little further down the row. We'll walk up to them here. And what's nice about the beans is most of these are pole beans, so they're going to produce those curling tendrils, as you can see here, and they're going to start going up they're going to start vining up those structures, which will be great because that'll get them to start to flower. Here's a look at my onions. So these are the ones I'm trying to produce onion seed and collect onion seed. I saved these from last year, and the seed heads are looking great. We'll see if I get any seeds from them. And then here's a look at my onions. Here's a look at more flowers. I have some lilies in this row and a peony. I kind of like to have a mix of flowers and veg in my vegetable garden. And then here's a look at my corn. It's interesting as well that my corn is doing really well closer to the peonies and flowers, and as you get to the end of the row, they get smaller. There are 2 different varieties, so that could be why. This is a look at my zucchini plants. We saw them earlier. Zucchini develops really fast. If you leave it for a couple days, you might miss it. There's some spinach. There's my new wimpy little zucchini plant. Here's my beets. They're getting ready to harvest, so I'm glad that some of the seedling trays I have in the greenhouse are a bunch of beets that'll be ready to go out. These are those beets that have gone to seed. Oh my gosh, they're like the size of a bowling ball, and I am so ready for these to produce seeds so I can rip them out because they're just a monstrosity. Here's a closer look. I can't tell if they're actually producing seeds in there or not, but I have now determined that these are very small flowers, and I think they will produce 1 seed per little flower. Here's a look at my basil. It's doing fine. I got some peppers behind it you can't really see there, and then some garlic in the background that I will pull out probably next week. Sunflowers and raspberries here. And as I walk up to the raspberries, you can see that I said this earlier in the video, they are producing little berries. So I'm out there every day just pulling off what's there. And because I don't eat them, I just throw them in a freezer bag and I'll freeze them for jam. That was a look at my tomatillos. And here's a look at my asparagus bed and some sunflowers as well on the edge there. Not doing well. I think this soil is pretty sterile because it's new this year. It hasn't had the worms kind of growing in. Those are a look at my berries. So I don't think things are doing as great. Here's a look at my grapes. And here's a look at the seedling trays that are kind of popping in and growing and doing fine. And as things come out of the garden, I will replenish with things that are growing here as my succession. And this, I just thought I'd leave you with a shot of some of the flowers that are growing in my garden.